going to go ahead. It's 5 o'clock, and then just again to be respectful of everyone's time, I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. I want to welcome everybody, say thank you for joining us on this Tuesday afternoon, a beautiful Tuesday that we've had. Thank you to all of our board members and our staff for your preparation for today's meeting. And thank you to all of our community members and anyone else that are joining us via Zoom. Welcome, and we've got a lot to cover tonight, so we're going to go ahead and get started with our meeting. Before we go forward with roll call, I'm just going to do as we do at every board meeting, read our board norms and protocols so that we're all on the same page and how we will conduct ourselves. So as a board, we agree to respect the differences of opinions in making decisions for the district, to follow best practices in managing the superintendent and the management of the board itself. As a board, we agree to stay on task when conducting business for the district, including while at board meetings, to never surprise the superintendent or each other when conducting official business of the district, to read these norms at the beginning of each board meeting and at board workshops as a reminder of how to conduct our meetings, and to continually self-check to determine if we are following our norms when conducting district business. So with that, Bridget, would you please do a roll call for us?
Certainly. Yolanda Clark.
Yolanda Clark, present.
Maxine Drew.
Maxine Drew, present.
Janie Humphreys.
Janie Humphreys, present.
Randy Lopez.
Randy Lopez, present.
Wanda Brownlee Page.
Wanda Brownlee Page, present.
Valdinia Wynn.
Valdinia Wynn, present.
And Stacy Aker.
Stacy, present. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Great. Thank you, everybody. And again, welcome to all of you watching. Welcome to all of our board and staff for tonight's meeting. So with that, I would entertain a motion to approve the regular agenda.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussions or questions? Okay. Go ahead and do a roll call, please.
Sure. Yolanda Clark.
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew.
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphreys.
Janie Humphreys, yes.
Randy Lopez.
Randy, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page.
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Valdinia Wynn.
Valdinia Wynn, yes.
And Stacy Aker.
Stacy, yes.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started with our agenda. I want us to continue being in the habit again of continue to keep our focus on our students, right? And we continue to do some great things in our district. So Dr. Faust, I don't know if we have some awards or recognition or just something positive about our district or students that we might be able to share today. I don't know if we have something that you might be able to share with us.
Yes, well, it's in my communications. Let me get my communication.
Okay. Thank you. So we have some positive things going on in our district. And so we'll get to that when Dr. Faust gives us his communications report. And sorry about the dog there.
Who let the dogs out?
So with that,
yes, can we do it at the end?
yes, we will do that at the end. No worries. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and move on to our community comment section of our meeting. Bridget, looks like we have one.
Yes, and if it's all right with everyone, I'll just read it for you all. Got it. This communication is from Merle Bland. This memo is being written on behalf of the 80 members of Business West, a voluntary association of mostly small businesses. Many of the members live, work, and vote in the Kansas City, Kansas School District. The message this year is the same as it has been during the past 10 years. Hold the line on property taxes. Although high property taxes are a serious concern to Business West members, even more appalling is the very low graduation rate among students in the Kansas City, Kansas School District. Even those who earn diplomas are not prepared for secondary education. This is quite obvious to instructors at the community college who teach remedial classes. Many of these students are from the Kansas City, Kansas School District. They do not have basic reading and math skills. That means taxpayers have to pay twice because the school district has failed to do its job. I am very disappointed that I am not able to present this letter in person or via Zoom. I was allowed to make a presentation at all other local units of governments, either in person or via Zoom. A public unit of government needs public support. Making it difficult and impersonal does not speak well of a public institution. Even the bureaucratic unified government allows Zoom presentations.
Thank you, Bridget.
Mhm.
And we thank Mr. Merle Bland for submitting his community comment to us. Okay, so we will continue on with the reports of the superintendent. I think Dr. Faust is there somewhere.
Sorry about that. Okay. Let me, come on, open up for me. I'm having some computer technological issues also. It's like, what in the world? Come on, open for me.
While he's getting there, I'll buy you a couple seconds, Dr. Faust. I just want to say thank you to Matt Anderson, who did a good job with Fox 4 today. So it was very nice to see you and representing our district, Matt. So thank you for doing that today, and for our communications team to make sure that we had everything ready for that. So thanks for doing that for our district.
So I'd ask that the Kansas City Board of Education review only for informational, the Presiga FMLA and ADA tracking system as submitted by Kelly Tushman, Chief of HR, Jody Mitchell, Director of Human Resources, and is recommended by myself, Superintendent of Schools.
Thank you, Dr. Faust and President. I'm going to turn it over to Jody Mitchell, and she's going to introduce a couple of people here who are here to represent the product that we want to present to the board. You're on mute, Jody.
Sorry about that. Good evening, everyone. I am here today to introduce a team that we have been working with. And again, this is an informational item only. We are looking to streamline our FMLA leaves, ADA, and also everything that COVID brings to us, and looking for a method to streamline those processes for the Human Resources Department. So we've been speaking with a company called Presagia and been looking at their product. And so they are here this evening to do a presentation and answer some questions. So I will let that team introduce themselves. There's two of them on the call this evening, and then they will go through their presentation. I'll hand it over to Jeff.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm Jeff Simpson. I'm the Vice President of Sales and Marketing at Presagia. To give you a little background, I've been with the company for 16 years, quite a while, as of about 2 weeks ago. I've worked with employers of all sizes, including quite a few school districts, to really help them get control of FMLA, ADA, all of the other leave policies you have out there. And I'm also joined by Brandon. And Brandon, do you want to introduce yourself? And you're on mute.
Oh, my name is Brandon Estrada, and I am the account executive with Presagia Software. Nice to meet everybody.
Perfect. So I'm going to start sharing my screen here. And what we did was we prepared a brief presentation for you to give you just some background around who we are as a company and really what our solution is that can help Kansas City Public Schools when it comes to leaves and accommodations. So what I put together for an agenda, and it looks longer than it is just to go through a little bit of background about who Presagia is. Also discuss what our experience is in the education world, and just to give a quick brief on why it is that leave management matters, which really comes down quite a bit to just compliance and efficiency, just to give some background for anyone who's not as familiar with this world. I'll speak to some of our customers as well as the return on investment they've seen with our system. And then I'll highlight some of the key features you would be having around kind of streamlining your whole leave process. And I'll touch upon how we stand out, and then also how we'd be going through an implementation process with you to really make sure that we really just understand Kansas City Public Schools well, and we make sure we implement everything properly and on time for you. And then we'll have some Q&A at the end, so you can fire any questions my way and I'll do my best to answer everything on the spot. So without further ado, I'm just going to take you through just a brief little bit about Presagi, and these are just some of the important numbers for us. So we were founded in '87. So we've been developing enterprise class software for over 33 years now. So we have quite a bit of experience in this world. And we cover more than 450 leave regulations. So there are a lot of leave laws out there. We cover all federal and state leave laws in our system, and I'll speak to that a bit more in just a moment. We also have more than 1.5 million lives on our system. So our customers range from about 1,000 employees up to about 100,000 employees. And our software is totally cloud-based. So all you need is a web browser to access it, which in these COVID times can be a very good thing if you're working remotely, as many of our customers have found that they never thought they would need to do. Now, what that looks like in terms of our experience, and especially in the educational world, is we do have quite a few school districts using our system. We have groups like Frisco, Arlington, Spring, Irving, Leander. All of these groups have somewhere from about 4,000 employees to, I believe, about 12,000 employees. We know the school district world very well. You have unique work schedules. You need to make sure people can work, and you need to deal with time off in a very productive and efficient manner. We also have clients across all other types of industries, so you probably recognize some other names here. Cheesecake Factory, Trader Joe's, possibly my favorite grocery store, Progressive Insurance, and Guitar Center also are using our system. These are national groups really using our tool across the entire country. Now, jumping into just a little bit of why it is that leave management software is important. And I mentioned it earlier, but it really comes down to compliance and efficiency. Complying with all of those different federal and state leave rules is very difficult. Add to that, you also have district policies that add another layer of compliance in there. Doing things with spreadsheets manually is just inherently error prone. It's not as efficient. You have to set reminders all the time to do things. You have to fill in forms that need to be sent out to employees. You have to, when an employee takes time off, you have to actually manually deduct if they've taken a certain amount of time of FMLA or maybe another type of leave. These are things that are just incredibly inefficient and really hard to do when you're doing things with that spreadsheet, filling in forms, manual approach. Also, it costs quite a bit. So if you go across the country, lost time costs about $40 billion a year. One of the biggest pain points is intermittent FMLA, which is where an employee could be approved for, say, let's go with diabetes, and they're approved to take 1 day every 3 weeks off for this. Now, tracking that time, since it can happen at any given day in that period, is very difficult. Also, knowing if an employee is going above what they're approved for is very hard to figure out. So getting a tool in place to really help you handle this better and alert you when there's potentially someone taking more than they're approved for can be really advantageous to you to really start to get more control on lost time across the district. Now, jumping into compliance a little bit more, because this really is one of the most important pieces. If you go across the country, as I mentioned a few times already, there are more than 450 leave rules. With our system, we actually keep all of these up to date for our customers. Now, one of the benefits of being a cloud-based system is that as a new rule comes out, we can get it into our system very quickly and give it to all of our customers, which I'm going to go to another slide in a moment, but it's been really busy lately with everything happening due to COVID. We also keep some law firms on retainer. So we have Jackson Lewis and we have Littler Mendelson. These are two national employment law firms, and we keep them on retainer to help us with any legal interpretations about new laws that are coming out. We can add in any of Kansas City Public Schools' own policies. So things like medical leaves, personal leaves that employees can take when they don't have others available, those can actually be added in the system as well. So you're really managing everything just in one single place. And I did just pull a list of what we're covering in Kansas and in our system. And there are a number of state policies you have. There's a domestic violence victims, disaster emergency services, jury duty, National Guard, maternity, pregnancy, military, and voting. So all of these come in the system. The system comes with the letter templates to handle them. It comes with the rules to handle them as well. It'll set reminders to tell you when to do things, when you need to manage them also. So it's really helping you across the board with that compliance piece. Now I'm going to keep going on here, and I did promise to share a bit about COVID changes. So luckily you're in a state where there have not been changes. That's the good news. For the other states, there have been a huge number of laws coming out since about mid-March or so. At the federal level, you've had the FFCRA, which actually I do believe school districts need to comply with, being a public employer. Then the state, you have states across the board enacting various types of leaves to address the public health emergency. Now, one thing that I didn't put on here that's actually worth noting is there was a very interesting situation that came up when the pandemic hit, in that a lot of our customers were finding they wanted to provide leave for quarantine, but for quarantine when no one was actually sick. So you're not caring for a family member, you're not sick yourself, which meant there was no federal or state legislation to cover this situation. So what we actually did for all of our customers is we added in a quarantine leave policy into the system. We gave it to everyone so that everyone had a way to address that situation if they wanted to, and they could actually track that quarantine time for their employees when they had to take leave for it. So just a little bit around COVID here. Now, switching back a bit, I wanted to just jump quickly into one of our school district's customer stories, and this is Frisco ISD. They're in Texas. And some of the things that we found working with them, and these are things that many will resonate quite well with Kansas City as well. Items like having unique work schedules. So educators in particular, not working in the summer and so on, have very unique work schedules. We worked quite hard with Frisco and other school districts to make sure that we can account for that. One thing we've done with a lot of our districts, which is quite unique, is we'll actually load a full year work schedule for each employee at the beginning of the year to account for holidays and so on and so forth. The other is just having a large staff, and you have a lot of locations out there. So with Frisco, they were looking at 42 elementary schools, 17 middle schools, 10 high schools, and 15 support departments. Managing leave across that type of geography and number of departments is quite difficult. Typically, school districts also have above average leave volumes. Also, in many cases, there can be a lot of employees being onboarded on a regular basis. In Frisco's case, they actually average about 4 new campuses a year, which means 600 to 800 new employees in any given year. So a huge effort that goes into that. And then just the other point to note is that in schools, any single absence is a disruption. You need to find substitutes to address this. It's a pain point for you. You want to find a way to get more control over this, to maybe just be able to run reports and to be able to see, are there certain times of year where you see a lot of absences happen? Or are there certain employees who always have a lot of absences going on? These are all things you can start to do when you get a tool in place. Now, just to give you a few more notes on that, on Frisco, there are around 8,000 employees. They run about 730 leave cases in a given year. They're a little bit higher at this point because they actually, I think, are also a bit over 8,000 now. About 32% of their leaves are pregnancy bonding, which is something we see pretty much across the board with our educational customers. And in terms of what they're able to accomplish from an administrative standpoint, with our system, they're able to produce over 1,200 initial notices. So that means about 1,200 employees of theirs actually requested leave in a given year, and they were, with the system, able to click a button and have it produce the initial package you have to send to the employee. This is a package that includes forms from the Department of Labor and so on, and traditionally would take anywhere from maybe 15 minutes to 30 minutes for someone to compile. With a tool, it's a click of a button. And they actually sent over 2,500 total letters in a year. They also complete over 11,000 tasks overall in terms of case management activities. So following up on getting medical certifications back, calculating how much time an employee has, all of that stuff. And one person actually does it all for them. So that person is pretty busy. That they're at the top end of how many people per kind of this number of employees, but they do have one staff member doing it. Now, I'm going to jump into one more quick story about another customer of ours. This is actually a health system down in Alabama, and I just want to share it with you because what this customer found was they also have multiple locations. They only have 3 though, and they have about 4,700 employees. And what they found is when they were doing things manually, everyone just kind of got what they asked for. And they would also forget to return people to work when they were supposed to be returning them to work. So they couldn't track a ton of what this was costing them before they got a system in place. But what they could track eventually when they did some analysis was how much they were paying out in terms of employees who exceeded their FMLA entitlements, so their job protected 12 weeks away, where they would just forget to return them. And what they looked at were the overtime, PTO, and benefits continuation costs. And over the course of several years, they were able to bring those costs alone down from about $250,000 a year, and now it's down to under about $1,000 a year. And that's just due to some minor issues around absence coding that really can't be avoided. So with the system, you can not only produce a ton of letters, do a ton of administrative work really efficiently, but you can also work to get more control over lost time to address other costs that are associated with lost time for your employees. Now, I'm going to keep going on here. And just to quickly kind of highlight what it is that Prasagia has, so some of our key features. As I mentioned before, our tool is totally cloud-based. So it's a software, it's cloud-based. You just need your web browser to access it. One of the nice benefits with the tool is it's very guided. So once someone says, I want to take time off, you enter just a little bit of information into the tool. And then from there, the system actually will automatically tell you what you need to do. So it's actually going to set reminders for you to tell you when every step needs to happen. It's going to alert you when employees are running out of their time, when it's time to return them to work, all that stuff. You also get centralized case records. So instead of having a spreadsheet, a paper file, a shared drive, some information maybe sitting in your HR software, everything's going to be combined into one place. So you really get a full global picture of each employee. The system will automate calculations, automate tasks, automate letters. These are huge time savings. Also, you get a ton of reporting. So you can report on how many leaves are happening at a specific school. You can report on, are there certain types of jobs that are really driving your lost time? You can report on how many letters you're sending in a year. All these different things are items you can use to really get a better idea of what's going on at Kansas City Public Schools. There is self-service available, so you can actually let employees log into the system to make leave requests on their own, just to give them another way to get this information to you. And then we will also tie in with your HR software so that you're not having to enter information about employees' names, their jobs, how long they've worked with you that you need for leave. You won't have to key that a second time into Prasagia. That system will be just flowing through an interface that we'll build with you. So just again, helps from an efficiency standpoint, so you're not having to do duplicate data entry. Now, what makes this really stand out? So a few items. First one, which I've said many times, I think already, is compliance. So just really working to help you really adhere to the letter of the law so you don't ever have employees coming after you. At the same time, you document everything you do in the system. The system really helps you with that. So if ever someone does challenge you, you can run a single report with a click of a button that shows absolutely everything you did, how you did it on time, the letters you sent, everything. There's also just a ton of automation to save you time. One of the great things about the automation is it really helps you follow very consistent processes, which is important for making sure you're treating your employees equitably. We can handle complex requirements like those many work schedules that you're going to have for your educators and others. As I mentioned before, there's tons of reporting, so you can really dive into what's going on at Kansas City. And then we also work very hard to give you very good customer service. So once you go through implementation, you'll have a dedicated team, but then once you go live in the system, you'll be assigned a customer success manager who will be your kind of go-to to help you to make sure you're really getting the most out of Prasagi on an ongoing basis. So this is really what helps us stand out. Now, the last item I'm going to touch upon before we go to questions is just the implementation process. And the reason I want to share this with you is we work very hard to make sure that we do a thorough implementation that's going to make sure that we get the system in place for you in a high quality, timely manner, also that we can tailor to any of your own unique requirements. So we start with a kickoff where we do a meet and greet with our teams. From there, we go into a discovery where we really work with you to make sure that we know everything we need to know about any of your own specific leave policies that go beyond the legislative leaves, anything like that. Once we do that, we put together a whole business requirements document that we'll go through with you and get you to sign off on to basically say that we understood what you told us and you agree with that. Because again, we want to make sure that we're doing the right thing for you. We then worked with you and your IT to set up any interfaces with your HR systems. So with PowerSchool and Frontline to get those working properly. And then we get a test system up, so you go into staging, where we give you very in-depth training on our tool. We train you in your test system, so that way you're basically trained on the system that you will be using going forward. From there, it's all once we've gone through testing, made the changes needed, we go through validation and take you live in the system. After you go live, there's a period of time where you're still going to be sitting with our implementation team, because we want to make sure that every little kink is worked out over that period. So until we reach the point where everything is totally stable, that where everyone's really confident that you have everything worked out, you're going to still be working with that team to be able to make little tweaks to the system. So that's really what that looks like. At the end of the day, we guide you through it. We really just want to make sure that we get the system set up right, so that you're going to really be able to take advantage of everything that it has in it. Now, I've done a lot of talking here, so I want to open it up to questions from everyone.
Okay, my name is Wanda Brownlee Page, and I want to thank you for what you presented thus far. And I'm a dinosaur, so I'm not a real techie person. So I'm asking for your help with this. How often do you have to update these systems? You know, we pay a lot of money for different programs, and it seems like within a year or 2 years, then, oh no, you got to add something else, you got to change. I'm just asking you because you're the expert. Does it require any updating?
So we do the updating for you. We're doing, with our system, it's not a buy software and install it on your computer. It's cloud-based. So we actually, part of the licensing fee that we charge includes system updates, which usually there are major system updates around like changes in functionality that happen 2 to 3 times a year. That's included, and we do it. And then the other piece are the compliance updates, where laws are changing and new laws are coming in. These are updates that we do on an as-needed basis. So usually there aren't a huge amount of those happening, with the exception of the last 4 months when we're at like 15 or 20 changes that have happened. All of those are also included with the system, and we do those for our customers. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does, sweetheart. I appreciate that.
Perfect.
Okay.
Hi, this is Dr. Nguyen, Valdini Nguyen, and I have 5 questions for you, please. The first one is, how long, again, tell me again how long you've been working with USD 500 on this?
With Kansas City?
With Jody Mitchell. How long have you been working?
I actually can't remember. Brandon, how long have you been working on this?
Since December of 2019.
Okay.
Oh, you've been working with 500 since December 2019.
Well, I think to be
correct.
clear, we made contact with them because we wanted to look at a system. So we asked them to give us information, which is just part of the process of trying to improve our processes internally.
Okay, thank you. And that's since December 2019, right?
Sounds like
Thank you,
it.
Brandon.
Yeah.
Yes, good.
Yes,
Two,
that was when we, yes.
okay, thank you, Brandon. In this proven implementation process, so where would you say we are?
You have not kicked off yet.
Okay.
So this is, to this point, it's really been reviewing, your team's been reviewing our software, going through demos and so on. There's been no start on an actual implementation.
Great, thank you. Number 3, so from kickoff to validation, what is the time frame?
So our average implementation is between 90 and 120 days. So
Okay, thank you.
3 to 4 months.
All right. Number 4, so what is the cost?
Yep, so the cost is, when you're looking, so the cost, basically the way it's structured is there's a one-time setup fee, and then there's an annual licensing fee. And basically the annual licensing fee also breaks down to a per employee per month rate. When we look at your total employees, you'd be looking at an annual licensing of just under 30,000, and you'd be looking at a setup of about 20,000.
Okay, thank you. And number 5, please. So
Yes.
what is the support? You talked about the updating 2 or 3 times a year. You never know how often that may be. What type of support do you provide after validation, after you're full blown?
Definitely. So once you go live and you're transitioned off of the implementation team, you get assigned a customer success manager who's basically your account rep and usually your go-to, who you can always go to with any questions. You're also going to be given access to an online system we have where you can also enter any questions, any change requests, any issues you're having, and those get slotted right into our support queue and divvied out to support team members to address as needed. The other piece is you do also have 8 to 8 Eastern support where you can call up our support team, email them, and you can actually get in touch with someone to have them help you go through something.
And is there a fee for this support?
No, this is included within the licensing.
Okay, thank you very much, both of you.
Very organized in those 5 questions.
That's what I do.
Excellent.
Hey, this is Dr. Stacy Yeager. I have a couple questions as well. So thank you for your presentation. It was very detailed. So the first question I have is basically, as we look at this, do we have anything currently like this? And how would this help us with our efficiency?
So to the best of my knowledge, right now you're using spreadsheets, which means every time there's a change, you're keying into a spreadsheet. Whenever there's a task you have to do, you're setting a reminder in Outlook. Whenever there's a letter package to put together, you're finding each of the individual templates you have, compiling the package and so on. When an employee requests leave, you're going to have to figure out how many hours they've worked, what entitlement they've used in the previous year period, how many days they've worked in the last, or have they worked 365 days in the last 7 years. You have to run all these different calculations from different places. With our system, the calculations get automated, the tasks get set automatically, the letters get generated automatically. The tracking entitlement usage actually even becomes automated as well. So you'll basically be going from a very manual approach to doing things to having a system that just automates a huge amount of the process for you.
Great. So what I see in this is more of efficiency, less room for errors, and then also we'll be saving time. Approximately how much time is our staff spending on it currently? If you guys,
Jody, you want to answer that?
Yeah, I can answer that one. We have one person that's dedicated to solely doing this process. And right now they're working 40 hours just doing this for the entire district. So it is one full position. And then with COVID, that just adds on the extra layer of leave requests and different accommodations and things we have to take care of.
Great. And then last question. Right now, Kansas does not have a modification, but say there's a modification that's rolled out maybe next week. How fast would you be able to get that information, be ready to put it in our systems and upload it for us? What is the conversion time for that type of changes?
So when you say a modification, are you thinking like if Kansas City adds a new type of leave policy that we would need to get into the system for you?
Yes, that's what I'm referring to.
Okay. It depends on how much work our team has as a whole. But typically when it comes to like a new leave policy, it would be a matter of days to get it into the system for you.
Okay, so everything is a push update from where you're located, just push it up to our system and like an overnight update or something like that.
Yeah, the benefit is our system, like I kind of mentioned before, it's cloud-based. So it's not that we have to send you something for you to then install. It's something that our team, once they have the policy, there's been enough time to analyze it and figure out how to configure it in the system. They go in, they configure it, and it's there for you.
Okay, great. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
This is Yolanda, and go ahead, Janie.
No, go ahead, Yolanda. You may have the same question I have.
Maybe. I did lose internet just for one moment. And I want to make sure if I'm understanding the capabilities of the systems or what we're talking about using it for. We're talking about leave of absence only?
And accommodations.
Okay.
So it'd be helping with leave of absence. Part of the leave of absence process will actually have an automated return to work process around getting like fitness for duty, medical releases. But then there also is an accommodation piece where you can case manage job restructuring, giving even leave as an accommodation, whatever it may be.
Okay, so we're talking about using this for back-end office only, so not for front-end staff entering things. We're talking about back-end staff using this system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so that answers my next question. I think of how does this touch or coincide with ASAP, I think I'm saying it right, or Frontline or whatever we're using now, because that's where staff is going and entering their time.
Yeah, and I can do that one.
Okay.
Right now, the ASAP system is strictly used for vacation, personal, and sick. And so what happens is we load their eligible hours at the beginning of the fiscal year, and then as they take leave, the system deducts. So what this process will do is it will sync with Frontline ASAP, and it'll be able to talk to each other so that we can combine the two systems together.
Okay, so and I'm sure you've already vetted this. The system we're using already does not have this capability.
That's correct.
Okay.
And that was my question, Yolanda, if the systems were going to be able to talk to each other. Now that this is Janie Humphreys, Jody, this is cloud-based, so our employees' information is going to be leaving our hands and being out there in the cloud. How secure is that?
Yep. So we actually come originally out of a medical software background, and we actually still also have a medical system. So to give you some perspective, we have a very fun product. I think it's like our fun product. There's FMLA, which is managing leaves, and then we have a health record that's used by a lot of Olympic committees, big universities within the U.S. to track health around all their athletes. So it's tracking injuries, treatments, concussions, everything related to the health of an athlete. So you can imagine when it comes to that type of information, you have to approach security with a very hard and steady hand. So we put all the proper security protocols in place. Our hosting is in Amazon Web Services, so in Amazon's cloud, which is really the best out there. We made the decision to go with them. I think it's almost 10 years ago at this point. So all the data lives in there at the end of the day.
And do you work with any other school districts in the state of Kansas?
We do not within the state of Kansas. The biggest state for us is Texas, actually.
Okay.
So we'll happily work with the state of Kansas, though.
This is Dr. Wynn again, and just so that I get it correctly, the setup fee is how much, and is it one time?
Yep, setup fee was 20,000 one time.
And the annual licenses cost what again?
Is about 30,000 recurring yearly.
Okay, annual.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Welcome.
This is Wanda Brownlee Page again. Do we have to sign each year or for a set number of years? How do you work the contracts?
Yep, so the contract we shared was a 5-year term. So it'd be a 5-year, contract. In terms of if you want to go beyond that, we can always do extensions on it. But traditionally, when it comes to pricing, we keep it flat for customers we already have.
But you have to sign for 5 years.
That's the term that we had shared with you, yes.
I believe that we have an opt-out policy in there. If I looked at, I don't know if Wayne is on the call, but he had the most recent contract, and I believe there was an opt-out clause in there.
Okay.
But we would definitely want to check that for you, and we could definitely get back to you on that one.
Yeah.
It's important. So.
Yeah, we always have a cancellation for cause clause in there in case you do need to.
And I think in previous discussions, Greg has told us that we have an opt-out after 1 year. So this is an informational item, if I remember correctly.
Correct.
And if we have more questions after we sit and think about this, we can send them to Jody Mitchell, and then you can get back with us, and then you'll bring this to us again for a vote at the next meeting.
That's correct. Yes, please send me any questions, and then I will get with the team and get those answered, and we'll have it on the agenda at the end of the month.
Okay. Thank you
so much.
Such a detailed presentation.
Jody, to clarify, is the most recent contract the one that you put in our board docs?
It should be, yes.
Okay, if that's the case, then it does talk about the various, amounts and termination, et cetera. So, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for the questions. And again, just to reiterate, like Janie said, please send any additional questions to Jody or to myself or Ms. Page, and we can get them to Jody for more information. So thank you, everybody.
Yes, and thank you very much. If there are no more questions, I'm gonna drop off, but it's been a pleasure meeting all of you today. And if you do have questions, please feel free to send them our way.
Thank you.
So
thank you
enjoy
so
the
much.
rest of your meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
thanks, bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. So we'll continue on with our agenda with the athletics.
Recommendation that the Kansas City Board of Education approve the athletics activities and student eligibility plan for the 2020-21 school year as submitted by Stephen Linkus, Chief of Staff, and recommended by myself, Superintendent of Schools.
Stephen, you're on.
You're muted, Stephen.
Is it
Hey,
Tammy? Oh, sorry.
Good evening, Board. President Lopez, Madam Vice President. I do think I have the volume on this time, so I think we're good. Actually, Tammy Romstead will be presenting about athletic programs. I'll be sharing the screen, and she'll be going through kind of what's going on with athletics in the state of Kansas, as well as here in Wyandotte County.
Tammy, I think you're muted as well.
Okay, here we go. Just wanted to familiarize you with KCSA. I know you hear that a lot. KCSA is the Kansas High School Activities Association, and that is our governing body for athletics in the state of Kansas. There are two types of activities in KCSA. There are non-athletic as well as athletic, and you can see on the screen the types of activities that go on in the first quarter through the first semester in our school district. I'll make a note that there's about 2,600 high school students and about 1,900 middle school students. So we're looking at about 4,500 students typically participate in activities. KCKPS this year, due to COVID, has made a decision that the local school districts retain the right to modify the start dates for practices and competition based on local and community health recommendations. So as you look at this form, we have kind of listed basically some modifications of things within regards to the activities. In the non-athletic, in bold are debate, band spirit, squads, which are cheer, dance, and scholar bowls. These are things that go on in that first 9 weeks at the beginning of school. Below that are listed other non-sport activities. The modifications for band, there's no marching band or concert in the first semester, and that we'll reevaluate that. For cheer and dance, the spirit squads, we're going to have no partner stunting, that's due to contact, and then again reevaluate that after the first semester. Debate last spring competed virtually, so they will continue in the virtual competitions. And then Scholars Bowl, we're suggesting there's no group competitions this first 9 weeks and look to reevaluate that. When we look at the athletic activities, you'll see in bold the sports that go on in fall, beginning of school, which are football, volleyball, cross country, girls tennis, and boys soccer. The modifications, now for our modifications in all fall sports, we're basically stating that we would practice and compete following KCKPS guidelines, but we also, in addition to that, are following United Government's health authorities guidelines and mitigations. So we have reached out to UG, and we are expecting to hear within the next couple of days an announcement that would probably be more detail about what sports may not or may or may not be offered at the beginning of school. And we don't have that information now, but we know that it'll be coming. In addition, below, if there were some sporting conditions that we would have some games competitions, then you see the additional type things that we would consider, which in regard to transportation, game day, meaning essential workers and students only, possibly, depending on UG's recommendations, no spectators at all. Crowd size, we limited traveling. Local communities just within our league. Consider reduced number of competitions, especially when you look at freshman JV. Face masks worn by everybody, inside, outside, when you're not athletically on the field. I can tell you that if we did have football, we would have, I've ordered splash shields to cover the eyes and the face. There's no handshakes after games. Concessions obviously prepackaged, and temper checks and health screening prior to ever getting on a bus to go compete or prior to coming in on a game day or practice day. Again, these are KCKPS's guidelines, and we have reached out to UG for their authorities to give us more input as to what we can do in the Wyandotte, in the county of Wyandotte. Are there any questions?
This is Dr. Nguyen. Under the additional considerations, is there I see a possible conflict. Could you help me understand? Okay. Game day, possibly no spectators, but spectators, immediate family members?
Correct. That will depend on what UG recommends us. In the communities around us that are going to host sporting events, some of them have limited to just the immediate families attending, and some of them have chosen to not have spectators until they get to a certain point that the health department deems it's okay to have larger event crowds.
Okay, so the question is then, if UG says no spectators, that would include no family members?
That would be correct, if that's what they would tell us, correct.
Okay, but if another county allowed spectators or family members, how would you be notified of that?
Part of the protocols is to talk to a week in advance of the school that we will be going to find out if there's any particular changes or modifications, and we would know at that time if there's any changes. We would know in advance of a week.
And if the temperature warrants not either going or getting on the bus, what's the protocol?
The protocol would be to have a designated area that they would wait. We would contact parents or if they were traveling on their own, we would let family members know that they had not passed the check-in, whatever it was, and we would let them know that they probably need to see their physician or somebody to let them know what it was. If it could be a temperature, it could be other check-in questions that would keep us from allowing them to go ahead and compete or practice, either one.
But the rest of the team would proceed?
Correct. We use that protocol throughout the summer with summer workouts at all 5 high schools. And proud to say, after 10 weeks, we were the only school district or school that didn't get shut down, that we managed to learn the protocols and stick to them. So I feel pretty good about the protocols.
However, that may or may not be the case moving forward. Things in this
correct.
arena changes. Thank you
That's
very
correct.
much.
Ms. Romstead, this is Janie Humphreys.
Yes,
Are there special cleaning protocols for the locker rooms?
Yes, we would. The typical thing is when the locker room is, everybody leaves the locker room, nobody else would come into that locker room until it had been cleaned. So we would restrict anybody else. You wouldn't have multiple teams ever using the same entries. They would have to be cleaned afterwards before someone entered. If it's the same team going in and out, that's different. But if for some reason, for example, it's not during fall, but during basketball, we have multiple boys, girls, freshmen, JV, varsity that plays on the same night. So many times we are moving teams in and moving them out at half times. When we get to that stage, we would have changes in how we would do that.
Aren't they supposed to have assigned lockers and supposed to be keeping social distancing in the locker rooms?
That would be correct. We would X out lockers so that you were 6 foot distance. You would not be able to use lockers in between those areas.
And you'd have to have separate facilities for the officials. Is that correct?
That is correct. And we do have separate facilities.
And the balls have to be cleaned ever so often.
That is correct. That's probably
the official stands have to be cleaned ever so often between matches, and the chairs have to be wiped down. How are you going to have social distancing between volleyball players?
The rules that KCKPS has followed in the National Federation of High Schools is they are not to huddle. They're not to switch benches. They stay on one side the whole time. The chairs or places that the student athletes would stand who are not competing on the sidelines would be distanced along with the coaches, and there would be masks worn.
So, and on the football field, on the sidelines, typically you see the kids lined up. How are you going to keep them separate?
Sure. Some of the mitigation that they have changed, now you can line up from the 10-yard line to the 10-yard line. It used to be the 20 to the 20, so they've lengthened that area. You would also, the mask on the sideline, anybody on the sideline, whether it's a coach or a student athlete standing, must be masked when they're not on the field. That also would include the officials that are moving the chains that stand on that sideline.
So there's, if I remember correctly, there's like 40 pages of rules that have to be followed according to the KCKPS guidelines.
That is correct. Each sport has a set of guidelines and modifications per sport.
And you have to make sure that no one uses someone else's towel, that no one exchanges sweat with each other, that there's a lot of rules, and if just one of them gets violated, then everyone's at risk. Is that correct?
That is correct. And like I said, we had on the average of 50 student athletes at each high school throughout the summer. And we used those same protocols. They had to have their own water bottle. They had to have their own towels. They had to start masking. I want to say it was about July 18th. Does that sound right? When the Wyandotte changed its protocol. So we've been teaching, and that is the word, teaching our coaches and our student athletes throughout the summer. One thing that helps us tremendously is our athletic trainers, because when they're on site, they're not worried about practices, they're not worried about anything. They're just looking for distancing, constantly, keeping us ahead. I tell you, when kids take a break to get a drink, that's when you have to really pay attention to to all those pieces. And it's been nice to have a summer to practice those.
I've noticed in the news the last few days more and more of our athletic conferences have decided to forego fall sports and move them to the spring, or not to engage at all. And I have to say, and it's not that I'm bragging or anything, but in the past 5 years of any of the board members, I have been to more athletic events in our district. I have seen the value that our parents and our students place on their kids participating. I've seen the joy on the faces of our students and their parents. I know how much the sports and other events mean to our kids, but I also believe that the health and safety of our students come first. And I have, that is my first priority, is our health and safety of our students. And I am concerned about keeping them safe in this environment. And I've watched many sports participations in the last few years, and there is contact. There is no way to keep the football, the soccer, the volleyball kids from contacting each other. That's, you can't. In the singing, that on the stage, they're singing and talking. That I just don't see how it would work. And I know there's going to be more questions and stuff, but I'm going to make a motion that we suspend fall sports following in the as some other states are doing for the health and safety of our students and staff for this year. That's a motion that I'm making, that we suspend participating in the Keisha Fall Sports Program.
There's a motion on the floor. If there is a second.
This is Yolanda, and I would second that motion.
There's been a motion and a second to suspend fall sports. Further discussion or questions?
When you said this year, do you mean the entire year, 2020, 2021, or just 2020?
For the fall, because we don't know what's going to be happening for the spring. But most of the information that I have seen, people have suspended them for the fall because they don't think it's safe for their children, and I don't think so either. I understand how important it is for our kids, I really do. I have seen how important it is attending those events, but the health and safety of our children come before sports.
I would say I'm in favor of going ahead and approving it, so I wouldn't be voting to cancel it. I believe that we've done a great job, and Tammy has done an awesome job of making sure that our coaches and our kids know the proper restrictions. And it's important for our kids to continue to get out there and play and have athletics. It's like so much taken from them by not being able to attend class in person and having to do it online. I've seen the drastic difference of how the sports have changed the attitude of children and just their excitement. So I trust that Tammy will keep a pulse on what is going on, and if there's any concerns, that it will be canceled as appropriate. But I fully believe we need to continue to allow for them to do this modified schedule.
This is Dr. Nguyen. I will support the motion, because while it's not the same, the National Junior College Athletic Association has also canceled all fall sports. So the community colleges in the nation will not, for the same reasons of safety. So I will support the motion.
Can we go ahead and do the vote?
I have a quick question. Janie, your motion was to suspend or to cancel it? Just can you remind me?
I'm trying to think what the difference would be between suspend and cancel. Dr. Nguyen, which way should I say it, suspend or cancel?
Well, we probably could say suspend so that if at any time, I don't think, let's put it like this, I don't think we'll be the only public school that does this. So I think suspend is not as final. Now, we always go to the intent of the motion. So the intent of the motion is not to kill sports. So let's get that straight. And don't anybody go out from this meeting, and especially the people who are listening, we're not trying to kill sports or students' future. But safety right now, I think the intent would be suspend, and I'd ask the second person who made the second for also clarification.
Yeah, suspend, yes, suspend.
Well, here's my question, or why I was asking that for that clarification as well. I do believe that Tammy mentioned that they've reached out to the UG. I do have a feeling that the UG will have something coming out soon. So I believe they'll probably provide some guidance. Now whether they're going to make a decision for our districts or not, that's something to be determined when and if they do something. So that's why I was just asking but okay. Thank you.
Remind Mr. Lopez that the UG does not govern the public school.
No, I understand that the health department, if they may come out and say that they want to suspend everything, and that's all, or so I don't know.
And if they do, then we would be consistent with them. But we are responsible, and so until they do, that's my response to your.
Yeah, no, and that's why I was clarifying, because if we say suspend, then if the UG comes back with something else, then we can modify. If we cancel, then it nixes everything for the. So that's why I was making that clarification between suspending and canceling, Janie. And
I think it's only for the first semester, right, Ms. Humphries?
Yeah, cancel the fall sports season.
No, suspend.
Suspend this fall sports season for 2020.
And I want to clarify, because I have something that's a tiny bit different. I have that you said the Kansas City Board of Education suspend involvement in KCKPS fall sports.
Yeah.
Is that how you want that to read? Or just suspend fall sports?
The KCKPS fall sports.
Okay, thank you.
And you're not referring to the non-athletic.
Not to the academic, not like PE class that's online, not like the virtual academic class.
Or like debate or.
The debate's a virtual class.
Okay. I just want to clarify. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do have one more question, Tammy. So if other districts were to continue and we were going to participate, would that mean that we forfeited automatically, or how does that work?
We'll have to notify all the scheduled games, all the schools, to let them know that we were suspending the fall season. Mm-hmm. I would like to let you know that KCKPS, as well as the Federation and UG, have rated the different sports as being high risk, moderate risk, and low risk, like girls tennis and cross country. So that's another thing to consider, because I think that's how they're going to rate, that's how they're going to announce their decisions.
Okay.
So are you saying that cross country and tennis is at less of a risk if we would allow those sports?
Correct. The KCKPS and the National Federation consider those low-risk sports. UG may determine that other sports that we normally would offer would not be, it would be suspended, but they may choose the low-risk sports to continue. I just wanted to make note of that, because I believe they're looking at each sport individually based on its risk.
So by us saying to suspend, if you come back, and I'm asking the question, and say, because football, I don't see how that could be I struggle with that one. Cross country, I feel like based upon what's come out, this is how this can happen. It's a separate sport. We're running in our own lanes. I guess my question is that something that we need to, and I don't know if this is to the board, we go back and revisit at that point? Or since we are saying suspend based upon the information that comes out from the health department?
When you look at the other sports, you still have the transportation, you still have the locker room stuff, you still have them gathering together, and then you're going to go down the rabbit hole of looking at picking and choosing, and that's a big rabbit hole, I think.
I got it. That makes sense.
That's my opinion. You've got so many different things.
That makes sense.
And I think a question has come up with how will this impact seniors who are looking to get scholarships in these areas? Will there be any impact on them?
Yes, it's difficult because typically they're using film, games, or practices to show their abilities. But as we learned in the virtual environment last year without sports, we had to work pretty hard at helping kids connect with coaches. I think, the hard part for the kids isn't just missing out on the camaraderie and the sport. It's that daily connection with those coaches, and that's kind of what we use to really motivate some of the large number of programs to stay on task for eligibility and grades, and it's kind of a motivation for them. But speaking to the health of the community, I think UG has looked at some of our sports being what they would consider higher moderate, and then looking at low-risk sports differently, like girls tennis and cross country. That's, I think, their stance. They've not made an announcement, but I know Elizabeth Morris has been working with them, talking to them, and we've had a lot of communication about what they're considering. It falls in line with the other states around the country. So.
Thank you, everybody. And I didn't want to cut the conversation short because I think this is very important, especially if we're, with the motion at hand. I think we wanted to allow for adequate conversation, discussion, and questions. So I appreciate everyone's thoughtfulness. And, it's the age that we're in and what we're seeing nationally with universities and across the country making decisions on this. It's important that we have this thoughtful conversation. So I appreciate that. And that's why I didn't want to rush the conversation to go straight to a vote. Because I think we wanted to be thoughtful about this. So thank you. And thank you, Tammy, for putting this together and the information provided. So if there are no other questions, then I would ask Bridget to go ahead and do a roll call. If you could restate the motion so we're all on the same page of what the actual motion is, please.
Certainly. That the Kansas City, Kansas Board of Education suspend involvement in KCKPS fall sports. Yolanda Clark?
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew?
Maxine Drew, no.
Janie Humphreys?
Janie Humphreys, yes.
Randy Lopez?
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page?
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Valdinia Wynn?
Valdinia Wynn, yes.
Stacey Yeager?
Stacey, no.
Got it. The motion passes. Thank you, everyone.
Randy, I would ask that if we have updates as it relates to cross country and tennis or something of that nature, if there's different direction from the UG, if we could put this back on the discussion for if there is an update for us for consideration. Absolutely,
Dr. Yeager. I think that's an important note that we continue to stay in conversation with the UG and the health department. And if we do get an update, I think it's very valid to continue this conversation. So we'll keep that in mind and make sure that we continue with this. So yeah, thank you.
Can I add to that? And this probably is a question for Tammy. Are there any practices happening now that will be a question mark based upon this vote?
No, there's not. We stopped our summer workouts this week, so there are no practices. There's no workouts. And the official practices for KCKPS did not start till Monday. So
okay.
We have not done anything.
Okay, we definitely didn't want to leave anyone confused. Thank you.
And Ms. Romstad, I'm sure your coaches are going to continue to stay close to their athletes, and especially those who had sites on college. I'm sure those programs are also concerned about what are they going to do if they cancel. Do they redshirt? So these topics are being discussed fully with safety, education, promotion at all levels. So we're not neglecting any aspect of the student athlete.
Thank you, everybody.
And
We'll continue
Mr.
this
Lopez,
conversation, I'm sure.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
I had a question because I know this is going to come up, and I think we need to talk to our attorney as well and make sure. I don't know if that was expressed in all the different contracts for the coaches for the fall, whether people will be paid. How does that work out? Because people are going to want to know. And I'm not saying we have to talk about it now, but that is a question we need to answer to get out to all the people who are coaching and who have, if they're the drill team sponsor, what have you. I don't know if they've signed their contracts yet, but we need to find out legally and make sure that we do accordingly and do what's right.
Yeah, you'd probably want an executive session so we could discuss it from a legal standpoint, but I'm happy to provide that information at any time.
So do we need to do that today?
You don't have it on the agenda tonight, but this is a regular meeting. So if you wanted to amend the agenda to add it, you could do so by a majority vote.
So do I need to make a motion to add that to the agenda at this time?
You have enough information to do it today?
I'm happy to give the advice tonight if you want it.
Okay.
So yes, the answer to Ms. Page's question is if she wants to have an executive session, she should move to amend the agenda to add an executive session to for that purpose.
I move to add an executive session to the agenda to deal with this because I'd like to come out and give answers because there's going to be a lot of questions tomorrow. And I'd like for us to.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to add an executive session tonight. Roll call, Bridget, please.
Yolanda Clark.
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew.
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries.
Janie Humphries, yes.
Randy Lopez.
Randy, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page.
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Valdenia Nguyen.
Valdenia Nguyen, yes.
Stacey Yeager.
Stacey, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Okay, we will continue with our agenda. Dr. Faust.
Recommend that the Kansas City Board of Education approve the purchase of Learning Management System Canvas as submitted by Matthew Anderson, Interim Assistant Superintendent, as recommended by myself, Superintendent of Schools.
Good evening, Mr. President, Madam Vice President, Board, Dr. Faust. Tonight, we would like to just give you a quick clarification around what's the difference between Infinite Campus and the difference between Canvas, because it seemed like there may have been some misunderstanding at the end of Friday's meeting. So Julie is going to share her screen with you, and we're just going to give you an information on why it's important that we have both of these systems. You can't have one without the other. So Julie, if you'd go ahead and share this information with the board, please.
Absolutely. So we have had Infinite Campus for several years. It is our student information system. It is the database where we house all student information, data, records, grade transcripts, schedules. Many times we have their birth certificates and those types of information within the Infinite Campus system. That is important because within Canvas, all Canvas is really the delivery of learning for our students when they are either in a remote environment or when they are face-to-face in our buildings. And so what we're able to do is take the data from Infinite Campus, filter it into, or from Infinite Campus, filter it into Canvas, so it helps populate rosters, it has teachers in there, and then the information that teachers input in there, grades, assignments, actually will talk back to Infinite Campus, so then we have a record of that learning. And so it's kind of a nice circle, but we do have to have both in order to make that full circle happen.
So there's only one part of Infinite Campus that we currently have that we will no longer need. And so we're working with Wayne Corral to get that removed from the contract that we currently have. So that way we don't have to worry about that piece. So we just wanted to make sure that you are aware of that, why we would need both systems to move forward. So we don't have any other information to share with you. The presentation you have in the board documents. And so if you have any further questions, we'd be happy to answer those.
I would like to make a motion that we approve the purchase of the learning management system, Canvas.
I second it.
Moved and seconded. Any questions?
Is there any system out there that does both of these? I mean, I don't know. I'm just asking because we're purchasing two different things. And I was just wondering, if there isn't a system out there that does both?
I would venture to say that yes, there is a system. Currently, we're very invested in Infinite Campus, and it does a lot of the work that we need to do. And in order to kind of switch from Infinite Campus, there is a lot of background work that would have to happen. So for right now, we're recommending that we move this way. And then at some point in time, I absolutely think, Ms. Page, that we could look at possibly an integrated system where we have both a student information system as well as a learning management system within.
So when you were out, you're saying that there's possibly a system that can do both, but we didn't necessarily look for that.
There are very few that actually do it, and to the legwork and the background that actually has to happen in order for that to take place, to do a system, a student information system and a learning management system at the same time, that process is a couple of years long.
And how much will we save? Mr. Anderson, you said we would drop one part. How much will we save after dropping that particular part?
I would have to ask Wayne. I know Wayne was going to look into it for us. I'm not sure exactly how much that component costs for Infinite Campus. So, Mr.
Yeah, I've asked CIC, who is the owner of Infinite Campus, and they're going to provide me with that information.
And
Okay.
it seems this, again, I'm not a techie person, so bear with me. I'm trying to understand. We seem to, how long do these things last? Because we seem to always change. And I know, like the phones, they don't last long, but they don't have cheap prices. We keep going up, up, up. So how long will this last? Or how many years do we expect to get out of the system before you have to switch again? The hope is not next year we're not switching, because I know when I taught, we were always changing and we never stayed with anything long. And that was always a complaint of most teachers. You know, we get something and by the time we get it, we're flipping script. And it's like, wait a minute, what are we doing? So I'm just trying to understand it all.
Absolutely, and I think you bring up a really good point. So the one nice thing about moving to Canvas is that actually we first start with a 3-year contract with them, but also Canvas is universally used within a lot of our higher education systems as well as K-12. And so we are beginning to see the higher ed is really grasping onto Canvas. So it's going to be around a lot longer than many other systems out there because it is a K-12 and higher ed system.
Julie, this is Dr. Nguyen. Is it cloud-based?
Yes, ma'am.
But is Infinite Campus?
Oh, I can't. I believe so. I think I would have to defer to Rashid on that one.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thank you. Any further questions? If not, I would, or Bridget, would you please do a roll call?
Certainly. Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphreys,
Janie Humphreys, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Valdini Nguyen,
Valdini Nguyen, yes.
Stacey Aker.
Stacey, yes. And Infinite Campus is cloud-based.
Thank you.
Thank you, board.
Great.
Thank you, board.
everybody. Thank you, Matt and team. Appreciate it. Okay, we'll continue on with our agenda with the KCK Public Library.
Recommend that the Kansas City Board of Education approve the payment of bills for the Kansas City Kansas Public Libraries as submitted by Dennis Covington, Chief Financial Officer, and it's recommended by myself, Superintendent of Schools.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Got it. Yolanda Clark.
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew.
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries.
Janie Humphries, yes.
Randy Lopez.
Randy, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page.
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Valdenia Nguyen.
Valdenia Nguyen, yes.
Stacey Yeager.
Stacey, yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Great. Thank you, everybody. Moving along, we will go to our consent agenda. I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mr. President, I'd like to set aside this Dr. Nguyen. C like cat, E like elephant, F like friend, H like hat.
Okay, so that's just to make sure I have it right. C, E, F, H.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay. All right, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended without those items specifically stated.
So moved. Okay.
Moved and seconded. Bridget, would you do a roll call, please?
You got it. Yolanda Clark.
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew.
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries.
Janie Humphries, yes.
Randy Lopez.
Randy, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page.
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Valdenia Nguyen.
Valdenia Nguyen, yes.
Stacey Yeager.
Stacey, yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Do we go ahead and take those up now, or?
Sure.
All right.
I'd ask you the question, Mr. Lopez, did you find HR report? There's some items that we voted about a month ago that have not included the specific course for the high need, nor the location for relocation. I'd like to know why that was not included, because the board voted that way.
So I did reach out to Ms. Tishman, and Ms. Tishman, if you have other information, I'll just kind of let you know what I know. Looking at the HR report, so there is under, in terms of the high need positions, under the, sorry, I'm trying to pull it up.
Are you saying there has been a correction, an update in on the?
No, not
all along.
There's a under the position on the HR report. The teachers have a distinction whether they're ELA or math, and those are some of the high needs. That's where those high needs have the distinction of what type of teacher they are. So that position piece is there.
Excuse me, is it identified on the HR report the specific? Did I overlook that?
Yes, if you look at.
Can you show the screen, please? Or you cannot show the screen?
But look at item 12, 13, 14.
Not 15. Coming up on my screen.
Well, anyway, it is listed. I'll just let you know. So
okay, and the other one?
I was not aware when I was asked, I think Ms. Humphries asked for me to provide a chart that showed how relocation was calculated, which I did 2 weeks ago and was provided to your board library. So that's what was requested. That was what was provided. You do have the relocation amount listed on the personnel report, but we don't have the location where the person's moving from. We would not typically do that.
And if I understood correctly, Ms. Tishman, that a reason for not having that on the HR report is just confidentiality, privacy issues, and that would be a question for Mr. Goheen. I think I understand like what the request was from Ms. Humphries and Dr. Nguyen, but I think that was part of the issue, is just the confidentiality and putting somebody's address on the report.
Okay, so first let me say, I do see, so I do stand corrected, Ms. Tishman, that the course is listed. Mm-hmm. So that was my mistake. Okay. But the other, perhaps we can address that likewise, because that is not what was relayed to Ms. Humphries or the board when we took that vote. So It's interesting now that it has become a problem. So,
can we request what the board voted, because that's not what was voted, I think. So I mean, I'm happy to do what you guys want, but what you requested is what I provided. So
I wonder if, Ms. Tishman, I wonder if it would be helpful for maybe Dr. Nguyen, you and I to have a conversation, and Ms. Humphries, Ms. Humphries would request the information just to make sure we're all on the same page in terms of what it is we're looking for. That way we all have the correct information. And then we can express that to the rest of the board as well, so everyone's on the same page of what's being requested.
And also, to be clear, I do not feel like it is appropriate to put where someone moved from on an HR report. I would need to know also, Randy, what the motive behind it is, because I'm not sure how that is relevant to us trying to get highly qualified people, or to the motives behind it. So if I would be able to get that information when you meet with them as well, to fully understand why we feel that it is important to understand where someone moves from. I would hate that we would try to discriminate or try to not hire people because they're from a certain location.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, because that never was even discussion. No one talks about discriminating. That's one thing we choose not to do. And if Ms. Humphries she can speak for herself, but the discussion was that we are fully aware for full disclosure, transparency, things like that. No one ever talks about discriminating from any place or any person because they come from a separate place. So that is totally inappropriate.
Are we ready to vote to approve the HR report?
Yeah, so were there any other questions on the HR report, or I would entertain a motion to
I make a motion that we approve the HR report.
Motion on the floor to approve the report. Is there a second?
Second.
I'll second. Bridget, would you do a roll call, please?
Certainly. Yolanda Clark?
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew?
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries?
Janie Humphries, yes.
Randy Lopez?
Randy, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page?
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Valdini Nguyen?
Valdini Nguyen, no.
Stacey Yeager?
Stacey, yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Motion passes. Thank you. Now to letter E, the Learning Sciences International Contract Renewal.
Mr. Lopez, just for $132,000, could we have some more explanation of, I think this is this the renewal?
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
is
renewal. Mm-hmm. Ms. Tishman, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I was going to let Robin, Dr. Robin Wilson,
This is
answer any questions you might have.
This is what you approve, how you evaluate your teachers.
Yeah.
And every year, I don't know how long we've been with LSI, but for some years, because we don't use the state appraisal, so we've used LSI for several years, and so this is just a renewal.
Is there planning for professional development of our new teachers on this? You know, you've mentioned many times that things have not been rolled out correctly and training has not been provided. I didn't see this on the professional development schedule.
So good afternoon, Dr. Nguyen. It's Dr. Robin Wilson, Director of Professional Development. We are doing deeper training of our principals with the expectation that they and the assistant principals will provide that ongoing development of our teachers, as well as myself and other members of our PD team and the IIOs will be getting additional training so that we can support our new teachers through the new teacher induction and introducing them to the framework and helping them understand what it means for them as teachers.
So how long does this cost last, please?
This is an annual cost. The bulk of the cost is for the actual system itself that houses the evaluations. It's the platform. So about 100,000 of it is actually for the system itself. That cost has remained the same. I reviewed last year's contract. So there was no increase to that system cost. And we actually reduced the cost of the contract from last year by about $60,000. There was a component that was in last year's contract that when we reviewed its usage, it was not used and something that was really effective for the district. So we did eliminate that from the contract this year.
Well, thank you. That's good to know.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Wilson and Dr. Nguyen. Any other questions from other board members? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the learning side.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Bridget, roll call, please.
Certainly. Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Jamie Humphries,
Janie Humphries, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Daldenia Nguyen,
Daldenia Nguyen, yes.
Stacey Yeager.
Stacey, yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Great. Thank you, everybody. So now letter F, the intervention program for newcomer students, Dr. Faust or Jackie Rodriguez.
What was the question?
Or Dr. Nguyen, yeah, if there was a specific question or.
Again, is this new, renewed, what?
Okay, yeah, if we could just get some further information about what's being proposed here, asked.
Sure, this is a renewal from last year. We piloted it at the ILC and are asking to renew it for this year.
Okay, well, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Entertain a motion to approve.
Second.
And seconded. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Got it. Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie Humphries, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Daldenia Nguyen,
Daldenia Nguyen, yes.
Stacey Yeager.
Stacey, yes.
Thank you, everyone.
And passes. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. And now to letter H on the bid for safety, student desk safety shields.
Just one question. Do the teachers have the shield or, excuse me, the portable, or are their desks covered?
We were unsure because the hope would be that the teachers would not be just sitting at their desk. So they would still be able to occupy the 6 feet, unless I'm wrong and teachers are now sitting at their desk while they're teaching. That was the thing that we didn't know.
This is Wanda Brownlee Page. I saw on the bid that it was for $20,000, and I said this before, and I still contend, because I don't think kids have changed that much. Are they going to order extra ones? You would think you would have to, because the same issue we had with books and pulling your pants up and belts and pleading, please, where's your book, where's your book? That the one that I saw Mr. Covington with, it didn't seem real sturdy. So I can see that being damaged, being lost. So you got to be able to replace it. And if a kid doesn't show up with it, then what is that teacher to do? So you would think you would have additional ones. So if they don't have one, you can supply them with one to make sure we keep everyone safe. Because I think we have, 22,000 kids in the district. We're only ordering 20,000. So what is the teacher to do? Because if they show up and they don't have one, then again, there's the issue of the mask and they don't have it on. So I just think you need more. You definitely need more of those if that's what the body chooses to do. And that's where I have an issue. Because I know we struggle getting people to bring books. So you had to have a classroom set. And if they don't bring this, then what are we supposed to? I don't want to see our teachers be put in that position. And it seems like we need to order more.
Mr. Lopez, this just showed up on board docs, I believe, yesterday. And I haven't had time to even really read it and to see what it is. And this hasn't been presented to us previously except for a couple of minutes. Was that Friday, Miss Page?
Yes.
That was just a real quick glimpse. So I really have no background on what we're talking about. This is something we really need to discuss and have more background on. I would like to make a motion that be tabled and we be furnished with more information and background on what type of shields we're talking about, what options there are, and a little bit more research on how practical these type shields are. Are they really something that our students can use effectively?
Like that. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it's because if we're looking at each child having one of those, what is that going to look like in a classroom, at a table? Are we talking about them taking to the lunchroom, walking down the hallways carrying those? Those are questions all these kind of questions are popping into my brain. And I think it's a discussion that we really need to have, not something to decide on in 24 hours.
Sure. So it's been moved to table, and I think Yolanda seconded. I'll just throw in there, and then I'll open up to other questions as well. It doesn't sound like the intent is to not do anything to protect our students or our teachers, but rather just to try to find more information to make sure we're ordering the right thing for our district and our students. So I know Dennis sent us or showed us the example of that last Friday and talked a little bit about it. If it would be helpful, Mr. Covington, to maybe get us some additional information for the board to compare about. I know you've done some homework and looking at other options, so maybe just sharing some of those with the board and giving us why this is the recommendation. I know we're remote learning for 9 weeks, but I know we need to build in time to order and to ship these, whatever we decide to do. So maybe we can. So it's moved and seconded to table. Other questions or thoughts?
Yes, I do have a couple of questions. I'm not sure if Wayne was going to answer the questions before mine or if I should jump in.
Sure, I'll try to answer your questions. Go ahead.
So what is the shipping time for these to be delivered to us?
Well, the ones that were the low bidder, the lowest responsible bidder, they're located across the river in Kansas City, Missouri. And it looks like about 2 to 4 weeks. It just depends. I need to talk to the guy tomorrow. We need to make a couple of modifications to what they submitted to make the handle holes line up and other things. And so, but the price will stay the same at $8.15 a piece. But that's the lead time on those.
Okay. Also, I agree that we shouldn't have teachers just sitting behind their desk. I'm trying to, I guess I need a little more information. Are we also wanting them to get price bids for something around the teacher's desk or not? Or what, I guess I need additional clarification on that.
Okay, these are only bid for the student desks.
I think one of the board members mentioned about getting something for the teachers.
Correct.
Yes, about the teacher and also the cafeteria. So, and actually you may actually have an concern about the individuals at the desk. Yes. I don't know, what we're concerned about. So there you've got more people than just the students to concern about. I don't know if that provided you more clarification or not, but you have teachers, you have cafeteria.
Just more information about what it is we're trying to accomplish and why this is the best product.
Can we also take that one step further? Also, even in that bigger discussion, we need to talk about how the kids will handle having that type of responsibility. What does it look like if they don't follow protocol when it comes to those different things? So I think there's some additional layers that need to be added. We already know that we deal with behavioral issues already. So if I decide I don't have it, I'm not going to use it. What does that look like? Especially putting that type of responsibility on the students.
Well, I know there's 2 different options being talked about. We could adhere them to the desks. Each of these come with brackets. Hold on. Well, I had them. Yep, there they are. brackets that look something like this that would adhere to the desks, and the shield would fit down in it. If we wanted to make them, a more permanent part of the desk, we could do that. But the plan was also that they could carry them around, set them up wherever they ended up, if it be at a lunch table or at their desk, and set them up, as they move around.
And this is Wanda Brownlee Page, and someone I know will correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought they weren't going to be able to use their lockers because you're trying to control the situation in the hallway. So that means they got to carry this in addition to some other things. So that's all I'm saying. That puts a burden on teachers sometimes, and we're trying to keep everybody safe, but not create another problem. So I don't know what the answer is, but that just stuck in my mind because I know what I went through. You pleading for a book. Now we're saying carry this and your mask, get your mask on, where's your thing? And if they don't have it, then order some more. I got to have some extra because I want to make sure.
I mean, we could order extras. I mean, at the price point that is part of this bid.
Because I just saw the 20,000 and I thought we had more than.
That's a number I just pulled out of the air.
I didn't know if you were adhering to what you put down, so I took it as it was printed. So, okay.
Yeah. So could we go ahead and vote, and then they work out the logistics of it, Randy, and put it?
Yeah.
I thought we were tabling.
Yeah, we're gonna vote.
Yeah,
vote to table. Okay.
Any other questions before we? Okay. Bridget, would you please do a roll call?
I have motion to table item H on the consent agenda for more information and discussion. Yolanda Clark?
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew?
Maxine Drew, no.
Janie Humphries?
Janie Humphries, yes.
Randy Lopez?
Randy, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page?
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Valdenia Nguyen?
Valdenia Nguyen, yes.
Stacey Aker?
Stacey, yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Great. Thank you, everybody. All right. We will continue on with our agenda for our bills, approved payment of bills.
I make a motion that we pay our bills.
Second.
It's been seconded. Would you do a roll call, please?
Certainly. Yolanda Clark?
Yolanda
We
Clark,
need
yes.
discussion first.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Nguyen. You're absolutely right. Any questions or discussion on the bills?
I just have a question for clarification again. Help me understand why, is this Tyler Haying, I guess? Does he teach a Bishop Board or is he one of our persons?
I can answer that actually. He works in one of our non-public schools, and it was being paid with title funding for his professional development through Title IIA for non-public schools.
So why do we pay for his professional development?
So when we receive title funding, we are required to give our students who live within USD 500 who attend a private school, they have access to the funds. Because they're private schools, they can't legally receive the funding. So we're the lead education agency and we handle the funding for them. So because he's teaching our kids who, for example, Bishop Ward, we pay with the title funds that are for them. It's not our general fund and it's not our title fund. These funds are for the students at public or private schools. Does that make sense?
They're USD 500 students
they
who
live
attend
within
Bishop
the
Ward.
boundaries of USD 500. And because they live within our boundaries and they go to a private school, they have access to title funding by law. However, private schools can't by law receive the funding, so we handle the funding for them.
Right, and I know a law, but what kind of application do we have to provide them enrollment? I'll ask you this later, so thank you very much.
Got it.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, Bridget, would you please do a roll call?
Certainly. Yolanda Clark?
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew?
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries?
Janie Humphries, yes.
Randy Lopez?
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page?
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Valdenia Nguyen?
Valdenia Nguyen, yes.
Stacey Aker?
Stacey, yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Great, thank you, everybody. Moving right along, we will go into our board discussion to talk about the parent handbook.
Good evening, Board President and Board of Education members, and Dr. Faust. Good evening. You have before you in your board docs the second read for the parent handbook this evening. And I just wanted to note a couple of changes. One being the calendar. Now that the calendar has been approved and revised, I received that this evening, so it will be uploaded if the second read is approved for the third read. It will be the revised calendar, and I can't share my screen and show you that I have those 3 new revised calendars for the district for full day preschool and half day preschool. And we also will have some minor tweaks with the information that Elizabeth Morris just received from the health department, just regarding information we want to share with our parents, along with the information or suggestion revisions that I received from board members that has been included in the document that you have in your board docs. And then I'm open for any questions, but I did want to share that I do have the revised calendars to upload in there.
Thank you, Ms. Garcia-Stewart. Any questions for Lisa?
I make a motion that we approve the second read.
Been moved and seconded. Thank you both. Any other questions? All right, Bridget, I would do a roll call, please.
Yolanda Clark.
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew.
Maxine Drew, yes.
Got it. Janie Humphreys.
Janie Humphreys, yes.
Randy Lopez.
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page.
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Valdenia Nguyen.
Valdenia Nguyen, yes.
And Stacy Yeager.
Stacy, yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Ms. Garcia-Stewart, for your work on that, you and your team. So thank you for that. Okay, moving along. We do have several board policies coming up. Greg, I don't know if you want to jump in here and talk about policies.
This President Lopez, I'd like to make a motion that we table the policies because they were just added today. And I think we need more time to discuss these. And in lieu of all the other stuff we have on the agenda, I think it needs to be a special meeting with just policies. And like I said, these were just added today. When I left the meeting, I didn't know that was on the agenda, and it seemed like a lot of stuff was getting added. And I understand, but I think once we set the agenda, and I'm not saying we don't, don't be flexible, but this is quite much considering we got 3 or 4 executive sessions. I would like to see us table this. That is my motion, that we table it and have a special meeting and just do those policies.
So it's been moved to table the policies and have a special meeting for the policies. Is there a second before we open to discussion?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. So any questions? The only one thing I had a conversation, Ms. Page, and I thought you were in the email, so I apologize if you weren't, about there are 2 specific ones that need to be approved before a certain date. And Greg can probably explain a little bit better what those are and why, and the process to do that.
Let me give you just a quick explanation, and I don't think that there's any intention for the board to take action on any of the others tonight. Under Title IX, with the changes to the regulations, there's an August 14th deadline to have modified policies in place that comply with Title IX. What we had come up with for a proposal to handle that situation was, and this relates to policy AC and KN that are proposed, the changes to KN, the new policy AC. What we were going to suggest is the board adopt those modifications tonight to those 2 policies so that we can comply with Title IX, knowing that the board will still consider those for a subsequent second read, a subsequent third read before final approval of those policies, but just so those 2 can be in place to comply with that statute. The other issue that I would ask for some direction from the board, it doesn't have to be tonight, but on the policies dealing with tobacco use, the changes from KSB, their policies are much broader than the district's current policy. And before we spent time making sure those modifications were correct, I just wanted some input from the board as to whether the board prefers to stay with the type of policy it has right now, or whether it wants to expand it as KSB has recommended. Again, not asking for that direction or discussion tonight, just something for point of information. And I think the rest of the policies, although they did appear on the agenda this morning, as I understand, or maybe it was last night, I think we'd sent them.
It wasn't last night. I checked it.
That's fine. I'm not quarreling with you. But I do think we'd sent those out in an email to the board some time ago with what those suggested changes were going to be. And again, it was just to put them up there for first read so that they could be, so the process could be begun. And I don't have any problem with doing a special meeting to address all the policies and kind of wander through them. I think that makes sense. I think that worked effectively in June when you did it with the other policies. The only one that I would ask that you go ahead and consider adopting for tonight, the modifications, would be AC and KN, just so we can have compliance with Title IX. Again, knowing that you're going to look at them and modify them again based upon the subsequent second, third read down the road.
I too would ask that we will go ahead and do the first read tonight. If you guys remember, the first read is just to put it on the table. Then we come with the second read where we dig into it a little more. But at least I would think we will want to do a first read to put it on the table. And then maybe at a special meeting after this for the second read, we would be able to actually recommend changes, do the changes, rather than having just a 10-minute meeting to say, okay, let's approve the first read. So I would ask that we go ahead and put this motion down and redo a different motion approving the first read, and then schedule a special session for our second read.
Just to clarify again, so Greg, you're asking us to actually adopt the first two policies that are listed as a first read and with potential modification, just so we stay in compliance with that deadline on August 14th.
That's correct.
Okay. So it would be a little bit different than what you said, you mentioned, Dr. Yeager, in terms of if we wanted to modify the motion. Ms. Page, having heard Greg's kind of explanation on that, would you be agreeable to adopt the first two policies and at least, or to modify, to accept for the first read all of the policies listed, and then as a first read, and then we'd come back to them anyways? Just want to check with you to see how you're feeling.
I would agree to AC and KN, but I still would suggest that we do the others at another date.
Okay. And Dr.
And I would
Nguyen,
accept the modification with just asking, Mr. Goheen, did we know the August, when did you know the August 14th date was upon us?
The August 14th date has been out. There were some court cases that were challenging those regulations, and we were trying to wait out to see whether those court cases were going to change any of the regulations or decision-making points on it. Some of the other districts have adopted KSB's recommendations. The concern I had was if we adopted one set of recommendations and then had to turn around and adopt another set based on the court decisions, I didn't want to put you guys through a second round of that. So we were waiting to see. So I probably should have got them out quicker so that you guys had longer time to look at them. For that, I apologize, but I was truly just trying to wait to make sure that we had something that was solid when we gave it to you.
So I would support the modification of Ms. Brownlee Page's motion.
Okay. Thank you. Are there other questions before we take a vote on and Bridget, if you wouldn't mind repeating the motion that's on the table before we vote.
Sure. The modified motion is the Kansas City Board of Education accept the first read and potential modification of proposed policy. And do you want to make it AC and KN at the same time?
Yeah.
Got
I
it.
think that makes sense.
KN. Policies AC and KN. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to repeat this back so I can make sure I'm 100% on the same page with everyone else. With that motion, we are adopting the first two, and we are accepting the first read of the others with the understanding that we will come back for a second read. Did I miss the motion?
No.
With the first read on the others.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the first two, we would adopt the first two, but not accept the first read for the others on the agenda. So if you vote yes, then you're adopting the first two, but not the others for a first read, as the motion is presented.
Okay.
Would you guys like to add that into that motion so that it takes care of everything in one fell swoop?
Oh, I would ask that we would consider just adopting the first read.
Can we vote on the motion?
Is the motion, that's what Bridget was trying to clarify.
Well, the motion was to accept AC and KN. That was it.
Yeah.
And table the rest.
Okay, you want me to add and table the
yeah.
And what we've done in the past, so I want to make sure we're also being consistent. So what we've done in the past, we had a special meeting for procedures. We did not accept anything in a first read in our regular board meeting, because I think that's important to understand consistency.
That's correct. We did not do anything at the board meeting. We met for 15 minutes or 20 minutes to say yes to the first read. Then at the next meeting, we modified the second read. The first read, you're not modifying anything. So if we are not going to do this, we'll schedule a second meeting, meet for 30 minutes, then we'll come back for a second read.
Okay. Bridget, if you would go ahead and do the roll call.
And I want to make sure this is good for everyone. The Kansas City Board of Education accept the first read and potential modification of proposed policies AC and KN and table the other policies for a special meeting to be scheduled later. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you, Wanda.
Greg, does that do enough for AC and KN if that motion does carry?
I believe so. What you're doing is you're effectively adopting with potential modification.
Okay, I just want to be sure. Okay, thank you.
Yolanda Clark?
Yolanda Clark, no.
Maxine Drew?
Maxine Drew, no.
Janie Humphreys?
Janie Humphreys, yes.
Randy Lopez?
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page?
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Valdenia Nguyen?
Valdenia Nguyen, yes.
Stacey Yeager?
Stacey, no.
Got it. Motion passes. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, Randy, can we now set a date to review the other policies?
I wonder if could we just put them on the next board agenda? Is that too long to wait?
No, that sounds great to me.
That's fine with me as long as we have a set date that everyone agrees to, so we get it out of the way.
Yeah.
So you're saying for the second read to put them on the next agenda?
This will be the first read.
For the first.
Got it, because it failed. Okay.
For D through L.
Got it.
No, actually, and I want to make sure, Yolanda, it did pass, but part of the motion was that they accept for first read AC and KN and table the other policies for a special meeting to be scheduled later.
Okay.
So.
Okay. So we'll just put them on the agenda for the next board meeting, which is scheduled for August 25th. All of those policies. Thank you, everybody.
Okay.
Okay, moving on. So we are now at the point where we have executive sessions. Hopefully, board members, you have received the link to the executive session so that we can go into that. So I would entertain a motion to recess into executive session at 7. Do you guys need a couple of minutes?
We need a couple of minutes, Randy.
Okay.
Please.
How about at 7:05? We'll just say 7:05.
7:05, please.
Time for 30 minutes, coming out at 7:35.
That sounds good.
With no action to follow.
So move.
Second.
Seconded. Bridget, would you do roll call?
Certainly. Yolanda Clark?
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew?
Maxine Drew, yes.
Humphreys?
Yes, please.
Randy Lopez?
Randy, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page?
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Valdenia Nguyen?
Valdenia Nguyen, yes.
Stacey Yeager?
Stacey, yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. See you all soon.
Sounds good.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. Can I get a motion to come back into open session?
So moved. Second.
Was that Wanda at first?
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Thank you. And I got you, Yolanda.
Perfect. Thank you. Can I do roll call, please, to come back into open session?
Yolanda Clark?
Yes.
Maxine Drew? Janie Humphries?
She's muted. She said
she gives
a thumbs up.
I'm here.
Randy, yes.
Wanda Bradley Page?
Wanda Bradley Page, yes.
Valdivia Wynn? And Stacy Eager.
Great.
Well, there's 4, so yeah.
There's 4 of us. We're good. We're back in open session. I would entertain a motion to go back into executive session at 7:37 for 15 minutes. I need some math help here. That would be
12:52.
Yes, thank you, Janie.
Got it.
I seconded.
Been seconded. Bridget, would you roll call?
Yolanda Clark?
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew? Janie Humphries?
Yes.
Randy Lopez?
Randy, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page?
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Valdivia Wynn? Stacy Yeager? Okay.
All right, see y'all back here at 7:52. Thanks.
Bye.
Okay, see if I can get that.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. I would entertain a motion to come back into open session.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, Bridget, please.
You got it. Yolanda Clark?
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew?
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries?
Yes, please.
Randy Lopez?
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page?
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Valdivia Wynn?
Valdivia Wynn, yes.
Stacy Yeager?
Stacy, yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Great, thank you, everybody. I would now entertain a motion for the board to recess into executive session at...
Mr. Lopez,
Yes,
Lopez, this is the one where if the board doesn't feel the need to go into executive session, you don't have to.
Oh, okay.
Now, if you want to.
I'd entertain a motion to move to adopt the resolution to terminate, if that's...
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Bridget, roll call, please.
Certainly. Yolanda Clark?
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew?
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries?
Janie Humphries, yes.
Randy Lopez?
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page?
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Valdivia Wynn?
Valdivia Wynn, yes.
Stacy Yeager?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Greg.
Sure.
Now we have another executive session, and I would need a motion for the board to recess into executive session at 7:55 for 40 minutes. And returning at, Janie, you're my math whiz, or somebody, what's that?
8:35.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
All right, roll call, please.
Yolanda Clark?
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew?
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries?
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez?
Randy, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page?
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Valdivia Wynn?
Valdivia Wynn, yes.
Stacy Yeager?
Stacy, yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. All right, may I get a motion to return to open session, please?
So move.
Second.
Bridget, would you please do a roll call?
Wait, Yolanda Clark?
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew?
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries?
Janie Humphries, yes.
Randy Lopez?
Randy, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page?
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Valdivia Wynn?
Valdivia Wynn, yes.
Stacy Yeager?
Stacy, yes, thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Great, thank you, everybody. Now I would entertain another motion for the board to recess into executive session at 8:38 for how much time do you think we'd need, Greg?
10 or 15 minutes tops.
Yeah.
You want to go with 10 and be optimistic?
Go
I think
15.
All right, 15. We'll go 15. 8:38 for 15 minutes, coming out at
8:53.
Awesome. I'll take a motion.
So
moved. Second.
Guys, you guys are good.
Go ahead.
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphreys,
Janie Humphreys, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Valdenia Nguyen,
Valdenia Nguyen, yes.
Stacey Yeager.
Stacey, yes.
Thank you, everyone.
See you soon. All right, can I get a motion to come back into open session, please?
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Bridget, would you do roll call?
Sure thing. Yolanda Clark, Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphreys,
Janie Humphreys, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Valdenia Nguyen,
Valdenia Nguyen, yes.
Stacey Yeager.
Stacey, yes.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you, everybody. We are almost done. We just have a couple more things before we get to communications and report from Dr. Faust. The Board of Education would just like to reassure that we intend to honor any supplemental contracts that we have entered into, regardless of whether the sports seasons are suspended or not. So we just wanted to make sure that folks are aware. So thank you. Dr. Faust?
Sure.
Hello.
There's a shortage of talent in the aviation industry, and as a way to give back to the millions of students that are studying from home, a STEM Village in partnership with Redbird STEM offered a free 6-hour course opportunity for middle school and high school students to explore aviation. Christopher Gray, Sumner Academy senior, completed his first solo flight on July 8th, 2020 through the Aviation at STEM Village program. Something else that was really good for us is that back in September, the communications department entered the KCKPS police department into a photo contest with the national organization known as COPS, Community Oriented Policing Services. Our photo showed one of our police officers painting pumpkins with the kindergarten class, was picked as one of the 12 winners. Next month, the police department will be featured in the national publication, not just in print, but also online, that gets tens of thousands of views monthly from the community and police departments nationwide. The article talks about our officers' work in schools with graduation and the new safe defense system. One of the things that we are also pleased with, and thanks to Robin Wilson for spearheading this, is there is our yearly, so from 2020 to 2021, we have our professional development calendar, where teachers and employees can sign up for their professional development and look and see what's out there on the calendar. So we want to thank Robin and her team for all the work they've done to create this, and because this was not something that was easy to come about. I mean, it took a lot of work to get with the different departments, and they're adding to it. But one of the things is that it's a one centralized calendar where everyone can go to this. So thank you so much for all of those who put that information, that work together.
Great.
And there's my comment.
Thank you, Dr. Faust, for sharing. And again, we want to continue to highlight our excellent students and the work that they are doing. So thank you for sharing that about some of the really great things going on in our district. I think it's important that we continue to lift those things up. So thank you. And again, I just want to thank all of our staff that have continued to work hard throughout these last few months, several months, to make sure that we have a plan in place to get our school year up and running. We are approaching start of our school year for teachers coming in and getting prepared. And we just want to say we're so excited to have you be a part of our team and to bring together, work together, to face the unique challenges that we have. But knowing that together as a team, we're all here to support one another, to work hard together, and to make sure that we have the best school year that we can for our students, always focused on our students, on their achievement, and on providing them the highest quality education in the safest environment that we can. So thank you to everyone for what you're doing. I'd also like to just remind the board, you should have received an email from Bridget and or myself asking for dates to redo our KASB training. So if you would please, if you could do that tonight or early tomorrow morning. I asked Marcia, or I told Marcia we would get something on the calendar soon. So if you would please go onto your district email and respond with the times that you're available, that would be great. I'd highly appreciate that. And with that, again, I just want to thank our board for the time you've put in. It's a lot of work, y'all, and we know this, but we're in this together, and I hope everyone understands that and knows that you know what, we're working hard, and we have some hard conversations, but we believe in each other, and we believe in the team that we have, and we want you to know that we as a board are here to support our district and support our students and our teachers and our staff, and we're going to get through this. And as a board, we've got our kids' best interests at heart. And so please know that we continue to work hard for you, with you, but we appreciate the hours that you all are putting in every day at central office or in your buildings, or to our custodial staff and our nutrition staff. And you guys are much appreciated, but we're a team together. So with that, I'll anyone else that has any quick updates or comments from the board? Hearing none, again, thank you so much, and I will adjourn this meeting. This meeting's adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone, for all you do.
9 o'clock. Look at that. We got it.
Bye.
See you guys. Nice to see everybody.
Bye. Thanks.
Take care.
Bye.